Hello, my name is Ben.
And my name's Josh.
And welcome back to FPL Graduates, and welcome back to another video. I'm going to let Josh introduce this video.
Yeah, we're going to be revealing my team at the moment. We're 3-4 weeks away from game week 1. So yeah, we'll be looking into what sort of players I've picked, why I've picked them. It's a little bit different from the usual, I'm not going to lie. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so finishing top 2K last season, I think my rank was 1591. It was a good season, so hopefully we can maybe even improve on that, get that top 1K finish that sort of eluded me towards the back end of last season. But let's get started in goal. Alphonse Areola is my keeper to start things off, hoping that he does start ahead of Fabianski. If he doesn't, you'll see who's on my bench who can just come in for him. But I think he is one of the most likely 4.0 not midfielders, goalkeepers, I apologise, that should be starting maybe towards the start of this season. Some other options could be Bentley of Wolves, and also they're in talks of, I think, Kelleher from Liverpool, who could go to Wolves. So there's two £4 million options there if they do sell Jose Sarr. I think having a £4 million goalkeeper to start the season is really important. We saw Danny Ward last year, and I think Ben Foster the year before. These guys are really good and can come away with some big hauls, Ben. What's your thoughts on the keeper situation?
Yeah, I don't mind the Areola pick. Obviously, we haven't seen him start or play yet in pre-season, so we're going to have to see really if he does get the minutes and if it does look likely that he's going to be the starting keeper for West Ham United. But $4 million for a potential starting keeper, you really can't sniff at that. And yeah, it's good value.
Okay, so this is where my team is a little bit different from the typical template that you're seeing around on Twitter, YouTube, and all the socials at the moment. We'll kick it off with Estupinian. He is the main template pick, over, I think, 50% owned at the moment, and there's a good reason why. He's very attacking wing back, got very good fixtures for Brighton to kick things off of the season. So, you know, there's not much more to say about him. I've doubled up, though, with Brighton defence. Joel Veltman is my second defender, 4.5 million. We spoke about him in the 4.5 million defender video. If you haven't seen that already, do go check it out. Very good option. Missed a lot of last season due to injury at the back end and getting re-injured and stuff like that. 25 starts, though. He is Brighton's first choice right back. I would be interested to see if they bring anyone in at centre-back, because currently it's probably going to be Lewis Duncan, Adam Webster. Obviously, Levi Colwill's gone back to Chelsea off of his loan deal. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see who that next option is. There is Van Heck as well at 4 million that a few people think that could get some minutes. But I think Veltman, decent attacking potential, very good defensive potential. And I think the double up with Brighton, it served me well towards the back of last season in defence with Steele and Estupinan. And I think it could do the same to kick things off this season. And then my last defender is Anderson from Crystal Palace, Sheffield United away. You'll see on my bench who I've got there, there's a good rotation between Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. And that is why he's there. And every single week, basically, he'll be an Aston Villa or a Crystal Palace defender going off the bench. What's your thoughts on that defence so far, Ben?
It's very, very different, and I'm not sure whether I like it or not. I'm not sure whether I trust Anderson. Double up on the Brighton defence is different, and I think that could be where you get gains. The first three fixtures are really decent, but yeah, it is really different, and you're missing the big hitters in defence. You're missing the Luke Shaws, the Trent Alexander-Arnolds. So it'd be interesting to see how you've invested that money going forwards. But in terms of sort of going for the cheap defence, we saw at points last season where every year you see people say, is big at the back dead? And you've sort of almost alluded to, you think it is going to be this season. It's risky in the fact that with your team, if the defence and defenders are looking like they're picking up points, like the higher value ones, you're going to need to seriously reconsider how you're going to get those guys in, because you're going to need potentially major surgery on your team early doors to get someone in if they're popping off. A Trent Alexander-Arnold, if a Luke Shaw's looking good, if, you know, someone, a City defender is just popping off like a John Stones, you're going to need to really consider how you're going to be able to get those guys in 2 to 3 moves. And that could require a points hit early doors. So that is definitely one thing I'd consider with that defence.
Okay, so moving on to the midfield, and this is where it's starting to get a bit spicy. This is where the funds are starting to be allocated. We've got Mo Salah, Phil Foden, Bruno Fernandes, Enciso, and Bukayo Saka. So yeah, Mo Salah, I've been on sort of a not necessarily a bandwagon, but a lot of people going towards Trent. A lot of people are taking Salah out of their teams. You know, last season, literally everyone had Mo Salah and Haaland, and I don't see why it's necessarily the case not to have him this season. I think he's captainable in game week 2 against Bournemouth at home, whilst Man City have a really tough game against Newcastle. So it's not as if I wouldn't be captaining him within the first 3 game weeks. I think Chelsea away, he loves scoring goals against Chelsea, got a really good record against Chelsea as well. So he's in there, and I personally just can't see myself going without Mo Salah right now, come game week 1, just because of how clinical he is, how good he is. Like, he's been so good for Liverpool, and I think a lot of people are sort of overlooking that to get that sort of stacked midfield in there. But with what I've done here, I've got quite a few of them still anyway. So Phil Foden, 7.5 million. I'd be shocked to not see him start the first 3 games for Man City. Riyad Mahrez could be on his way out to Saudi Arabia as things stand. They've got no Gundogan. De Bruyne's injured. You know, there's a lot of players missing in that Man City team from last season. So I think his minutes right now could be pretty assured as long as nothing changes, sort of thing. And he's really interesting. I think having 2 Man City attackers is going to be crucial, because Erling Haaland's going to be so highly owned that he's just basically just going to be a net zero. So I think, having another Man City attacker is going to be very important. Bruno Fernandes, I think between him and Rashford, it's very close. I'll be looking towards their American tour to see how Bruno and Mount play and how that sort of all links together. Right now, I'd say that Marcus Rashford is pretty much a dead cert to start up front for Manchester United come game week 1. There's no real closeness in terms of them signing a forward anytime soon, and I definitely can't see it happening within the next 3 weeks. So it'll be very interesting to see if that happens. If Rashford's playing through the middle, it's difficult to say whether he becomes a better or worse asset. I think from both positions, he tends to score goals. So maybe it's just sort of the same. Fernandes, though, on pens, I think United will get a lot more pens this season. They only got 2 last season. Bruno Fernandes also hit the woodwork 5 times last season. So he could have got a lot more points. And I think, Wolves at home, it just screams of a Bruno Fernandes penalty, I think, that game. In CISO up next, Luton at home. It's going to be an interesting one, whether he gets the minutes. João Pedro is probably going to be the guy who sort of, he fights with for those minutes, which is really annoying, because in CISO's stats, Ben will talk about it, I'm sure, when we come to him, they're unbelievable last season, especially towards the back end. And he's a very interesting asset. If his minutes aren't assured, I can always move him to Andreas Pereira. Same price. Minutes are pretty much secured with him. And he's a very, very good option for Fulham. And then finally, to finish off the midfield, it's the most highly owned midfielder in FPL at the moment, Bukayo Saka, on pens at Arsenal, already scored in pre-season. I think it's very tough to not go with him, and I don't want to lose any of these other midfielders either. So hence why I've lost all the funds at the back, because I think all of these attackers are definitely going to outscore some of those defensive options. You mentioned Trent, Ben beforehand. Liverpool's fixtures to start the season, I literally can't see them keeping many clean sheets whatsoever. I know Trent's got loads of attacking capabilities, but so do these attackers as well. So it'll be interesting to see who does better. And then, that's the midfield. What's your thoughts on that midfield?
Yeah, very, very stacked midfield, and I can see where the funds have gone. Just to quickly go over some of these guys, like you said, Salah has always got the potential to go off, and it's quite nice to be able to have that option there, another captainable option. There's going to be a few net in game week 2 that will captain Trent Alexander-Arnold just because they have him. And like you said, it is a bit of a risk with the clean sheets, but obviously we know how good he is going forwards. And Salah is the safer of the 2 picks, really. I agree with all your points about Phil Foden. I think he's going to start. There's people that do doubt whether he's going to start. City just do not have the depth to be able to not start him and not play him in the middle. So I do anticipate him picking up sort of a starting place in the midfield, in the centre, attacking midfield, sort of, he's going to have good points potential. And I think for a lot of FPL managers, you're going to need to have 2, if not 3 City players to start the season, because their fixture on it is really good. Bruno Fernandes, I agree with all the points as well. With you being a United fan, saying you should have more penalties next season is absolutely typical. But Bruno sort of went under the radar in terms of the points because he sort of avoided points at every given opportunity, and could have had so many more. He could have been one of the top point scorers in all of FPL last year if he hadn't have hit the bar so many times, if we didn't have the if, whats and maybes. And so again, I agree with all the points you make there. It's a wait and see, and a potential move up to allocate those funds, up front to a Ferguson if you think he's going to start. So that Brighton third asset can be quite flexible with who you pick. And Saka, like I said, 50% owned. Not sure why the other 50% haven't got him, because he is really, really cheap for what you get in return with Bukayo Saka.
Okay, so moving up to the forward line, and this is quite template to be fair. Haaland on the captaincy. If you're not captaining Erling Haaland game week 1, you need your head checking because you're just going to fall behind. Burnley away, it just stinks of him grabbing a brace, just ruining everyone's hopes and dreams. Who doesn't have him, but you surely have to have him by now. And then Gabriel Jesus to partner him, the highest expected goal involvement per 90 non-penalty in that Arsenal side. A lot of people are sort of turning their nose up at him. You know, he's quite wasteful with chances and stuff like that. But the thing is in that Arsenal team is that he gets so many chances that he can haul. I think it was game week 2 last season at the Emirates against Leicester City. Just got that absolute monster haul when he first came in on his debut. And yeah, I just think there's something like that cooking with Jesus. I think this Arsenal attack, no matter who you choose, I think Martinelli's a really good option who's going under the radar as well. I think he's only about 10-15% owned at the moment. He's got nearly 20 goals last season with about 10 assists. Like, it's unbelievable numbers and not a lot of people picking him. What's your thoughts on this sort of Arsenal attack, Ben? Obviously, Saka's pretty nailed in everyone's drafts, but who would you have as that second attacker? Would it be Jesus or would it be Martinelli or would it even be Odegaard?
I have to say Jesus just because of the underlying stats. Like he does look fantastic in that facet. The only concern I would have is obviously you've not got the third Arsenal player and a third Arsenal attacker. I think, again, like City, their opening fixtures are really nice. So whether you can work out a way of getting that third Arsenal player in is the key here. You know, Jesus' stats and Saka, I think you can get away with it. But if you really wanted to make gains, a third one would be nothing to sort of sniff at. But yeah, I do think, you know, Jesus could hit the ground running. It's just a case whether he can keep injury free and whether he can have a good preseason. I think a good preseason is crucial. And if Jesus can go into the season with confidence, then I do think he can really hit the ground running again this year and produce similar stats to what he did last season.
Okay, so moving on to the bench now then. We got Flecken of Brentford. Me and Ben both believe that he should be the first choice goalkeeper going into this season. David Raya will be leaving Brentford, we do believe, this summer. So 4.5 million. Again, we spoke about Rico Henry and Ethan Pinnock in our 4.5 million pound defenders videos. Flecken, very good option, makes a lot of saves. It's going to be similar to David Raya of the years gone by. You know, he's going to make a lot of saves. Brentford get quite a lot of clean sheets considering their club. So yeah, he's a good option. And obviously, I'd rather start Areola at Bournemouth away first game of the season than Flecken at Tottenham. But after that, Brentford have 3 very nice clean sheetable fixtures. Moving on to the defenders on my bench, Pau Torres, as I mentioned earlier, very, very nice rotation with Anderson for the first 10 game weeks. So if you're looking at maybe, you know, a wild card in game week 8, which I think a lot of people are after the second international break, that one, you know, that sort of rotation leads up really well up to that point, which is really good. I think he's going to be pretty nailed for minutes and he'll be quite a bonus points magnet in that defense. You know, cheaper than Moreno, which, you know, he won't be fit for game week 1 apparently as well. So should be interesting to see where that goes. Baldock is my £4 million defender. Obviously, we learned yesterday that Luton and Burnley both blank in game week 2. So I think the safest option is just to go with Baldock with Sheffield United. A little bit of a rotation risk, but I think for me, he's a decent option. He's Premier League experience over maybe someone like Bogle. So I think he should get the nod, especially for the first few weeks anyway. Crystal Palace at home is not a bad fixture as well. You know, Palace lacking attacking depth at the moment with, you know, their strikers not firing. There's no Michael Elise. They're really relying on Eberechi Eze to sort of get those goals. So that should be an interesting game week 1. And then Sam Surridge is my last striker on the bench, 4.5 million. Obviously, he's on his way to the MLS, but it basically means that the 4.5 million forwards are less likely to decrease in price until we maybe hear that someone like Balogun or Cameron Archer has moved to a Premier League club and should be getting minutes. What's your thoughts on the bench, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, it's to be honest, it's a pretty standard bench in terms of an FPL team. A lot of managers have gone for a 4 million and 4.5 million keeper rotation, which is good. I think you save a good 0.5 there. By not going for 2 4.5s or a 5 and a 4. Obviously, a lot of managers have gone for this formation, the 3-5-2, with a couple of defenders on the bench one being a 4.5 and one being a 4. So it is pretty standard stuff. Pau Torres with the rotation with Anderson is not bad at all. I think Villa defensively are going to be much better this season. And I think you're going to have a case during the early parts of the season where Villa have the tougher fixture and you're probably going to consider starting him over Anderson. But that's just a case of, seeing which team's in form and what have you. Under Emery, I think it could be a case that you end up starting Pau Torres every week anyway. Baldock, I don't mind at all. Obviously, he's probably the most attacking £4 million defender, and he has some decent fixtures. It's not a bad option to have in case one of your players doesn't play, like an Enciso, like a Veltman potentially. And then, like I said, Surridge, you're not going to lose value of him. He's not going to go down in price if he moves to the MLS, so that's pretty safe there. And it's probably a placeholder for Balogun if he moves regardless. It's a pretty standard, pretty solid FPL bench. It's always key to make sure that you've got a couple of starters in there just in case, one of your players doesn't play.
Okay, so that is my potential Game Week 1 draft. Obviously, we are a few weeks away from the first game of the season, so it will change up until then. Don't get me wrong. Ben, what's your thoughts on it? Do you think it's too light at the back? I know you weren't happy about me not having Trent Alexander-Arnold or Luke Shaw back there. So let us know out of 10 what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think just based on the defense being a little bit too light in investment, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. A solid number there. Obviously, it's combating with the high amount of investment in the midfield, but in terms of team balance, I think it is worth having one or two of those guys who are priced just above 5 million, if not a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely sound advice from Ben there. So if you did like it, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this team. Obviously, you've got to sacrifice somewhere to get someone like Mo Salah in your team. So if you're wanting Mo Salah, this is probably one of the better sort of drafts that I've personally seen to sort of incorporate him in there. But yeah, if you haven't already, make sure you do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're nearly at 2.5K subscribers, and we're really pushing out loads of YouTube content this season.
Yeah, and as always, I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
later.